for her daughter's bowling league says, quote, "The fear in all the kids' faces is something I'll never forget." Joining us now is Maine's independent senator and former governor Angus King. Our condolences to you as a Mainer and as someone representing this state in mourning and grief. Tell us about the manhunt, the ongoing threat to the community. What's the latest?
Well, it's a dark day, Dana. I've represented the folks in Maine and worked with them for a hell of a long time, and this is one of the darkest days I can remember. And here's why it's so shocking, I think, because Maine has one of the highest rates of gun ownership in the nation, and the figure I saw this morning has the second lowest gun crime rate as of day before yesterday. Last night we don't have it, and ironically, the FBI ranked Maine the safest state in the country this past Monday. So that's why this is such an incredible shock to us, and beyond any kind of expectation that people have up here. It's been it's just been awful. We've got schools closed, colleges locked down, and the manhunt has expanded because this fellow apparently abandoned a vehicle about 8 miles from where I am. I'm in Auburn, Maine now, which is right across the river from Lewiston, where this atrocity took place. But we don't know whether he took off in another vehicle or whether it's right on the river where he abandoned his car. He could have had a watercraft and gone down the river. So that's what's so challenging about this. And I should be in Washington, but I canceled out of all my schedule today and missing a couple votes because I had to be here. So I made reservations last night, came up this morning. It's hard to express, Andrea, how this has shocked the people of Maine.
No, and I can understand that you couldn't not be there for the people you represent, and it's your life in terms of.
Well, and the problem, Andrea, that we're in is that as long as this fellow is at large, we're still in a lockdown, fearful situation, and we need to get on to grieving. We've got murders, we've got deaths, we've got families that have to come to grips with this. And the governor made a very moving speech this morning. I just left her about 5 minutes ago, along with the mayor. And that's what's making this so difficult, is to grasp the concept of, frankly, something we didn't think was going to be part of something we had to deal with, again, because of the deep and long history of safe gun use in the state.
I know that Maine, and you've pointed out that the statistics for gun violence are the lowest, and it's the safest till now, the safest state in the nation. But what about these military-style assault weapons? Are they necessary in a big hunting state like Maine? Nobody hunts with that.
Well, they're not. They're generally not used for hunting, but I think the real gun-related problem here is not necessarily the gun itself, but the high-capacity magazine. That's where these mass assaults really happen, when the shooter doesn't have to stop and reload. In most cases where you have a case like this, when the shooter has to stop and reload, that is a moment when he or she can be stopped. If you have a high-capacity magazine, that's where a lot of this damage is done. And we don't know yet what this fellow had attached to his gun, but from the number of people that were killed or wounded, it's clear that he had some at least 30 bullets, but they go up to 100. And that's something that we're going to really have to look at. And that's something that I think we need to regulate. I've been saying for a long time, there are two things. The assault weapon is a problem for sure, but it's more about the looks of the gun than its operation. I try to focus on what is the danger of the operation itself. And there are two things. One is high-capacity magazines, and the other is what's called a bump stock, which essentially converts a single-shot rifle, whether it's an assault rifle or anything else, into what amounts to a machine gun, where you can spray bullets. And we don't know yet whether this fellow had one of those. Those are I think that's where we really need to focus our attention. And I hope that that's a place where we can get something done.
I know it's very graphic, but the doctor and the sheriff, said that they have not identified several of these people. That's why they've only charged him with 8, not the 18, and that's because of the kind of ammo and potentially the bump stock or whatever else he was using, because they need to have help from the FBI on this kind of DNA to identify the victims in a town where everybody knows everyone else. There was a witness, Senator, who was at the bowling alley when the suspect entered. He spoke about what happened earlier. I want to play some of that for you.
Just normal night of bowling, and out of nowhere, he just came in and there was a loud pop. Thought it was a balloon. I had my back turned to the door. And as soon as I turned and saw that it was not a balloon, he was holding a weapon, I just booked it down the lane, and I slid basically into where the pins are and climbed up in the machine and was on top of the machines for about 10 minutes until the cops got there, just to bowl by myself. And yeah, I wasn't even there 10 minutes.
It's just so hard to grasp. To think about having to run down and hide where the pins are. There were kids in that bowling alley. It was a family night, and you just it's just beyond comprehension. And as I say, we've got to find this guy so that then we can turn to supporting the people up here. Now I have to tell. Last night at about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, I got a phone call sitting in my house in Washington, and it was the President of the United States. And he basically offered whatever help he could provide. And then literally an hour ago, the Attorney General called, and I was here with the governor and the mayor of Auburn, and they're sending up all the technical assets, but also grief counselors and people to interact with these families. So the response, both from state, local, and federal, has been extraordinary, but it's a response that I wish I'd never had to see.